Uncle Ron and the Stuff, part part two of 10, episode 10, part two, 12th of December, 2022. I should be doing stuff, but I'm here. Anyway, in part 10 or episode 10, I started a thing about thoughts, and I need to add to that. And what I want to do is talk about your brain a little bit, or what I think I know about your brain. First, I'll talk about computers because I know more about computers than I do about brain. And let me tell you, your brain is not what you think of as a computer. It doesn't work that way. I was a hardware designer for computers at one time, so I'm familiar with the binary aspect of computers. And then I also did a lot of programming, way down at the low level, all the way to the top. And No, it doesn't work that way. It is interesting that binary lets you can model or simulate just about simulate anything you want inside a computer. It's interesting. The world can be described by yes or no, ones or zeros, sort of. It doesn't do real well on maybes, but that's dealt with probabilities. But anyway, your brain doesn't work like that. It doesn't yes and no. Okay, computers, ones and zeros, lots of those, anything, visual, everything, all ones and zeros. But in your brain, you've got the eyes, the
I'm having
ears,
trouble hearing. Can you say that again?
computers. Uh, you got inputs. Your body's inputting things. Touch, pain. Uh, you got your ears. You got your nose. All the senses. Those are feeding in. They tie into your brain, and somehow or another, uh, those guys inside your brain, what's called neurons, little tiny. They're sort of electrically fired switches. You can think of it that way. So early on, they're just a big old mass of them up there, and I think there's like 100 billion. I don't even know, a huge number of them. And what happens over time is they start interconnecting, and the way they interconnect is based on memories. I say the word cat, and all of the pathways, all these interconnected neurons that have the chemical whatever related to cat fire, the word, the vision, the feel, any of those stimulus is going to trigger a cascade of electrical firings in your brain that gives you what you remember about cats. Computers don't work like that. They don't work on stored memories. Now, there is a thing called a relational database in computers, and that one is.
From moviecultists.com. A relational database refers to a database that stores data in a structured format, using rows and columns.
Yeah, okay. Anyway,
Oklahoma is a state in the south central region of the United States, bordered by Texas on the south and west,
I'm going to
Kansas
turn
on the
you
north,
off.
Missouri on the northeast, Arkansas.
Okay, that should be shut off. Anyway, relational databases in computers, because take automobile. You can call it an automobile, you can call it a vehicle, you can call it a Ford, you can call it a. It's got lots and lots of different descriptors. And across a large organization like the federal government, for example, each different department may use a different word for the same object, like a vehicle or a car. A relational database realizes and catalogs all those different descriptors so that one department can talk to another department. One calls it a vehicle, another calls it a Ford, but they're able to exchange information at one level because they're all recognizing the same object. Okay, well, in your brain, you got all these neurons firing, cascading, I guess is the proper term. This wave, this interconnected neurons that all have some sort of link or relation to cat fire. That's how you see cats, hear cats, feel cats, and so on. That's how that all works. How exactly thoughts come out of that, or how exactly you close your eyes and think about a cat, you can visualize it. I'm not sure anybody knows yet. And earlier I said, you ought to know how things work. And well, as a human, it would be nice if I knew how I worked, wouldn't it? You know? Uh, anyway, so we got all this stuff going on up there. Visually we're dominated. Now, somebody told me you get more information out of your ears than you do out of your eyes. I don't think that's true, but then I've not been blind, so I don't know. But visually, trying to do visual recognition with a computer is really hard. That's why autonomous driving cars are so difficult to make and they work right, because they have to be able to identify all they see around them, and that's not easy in a computer. It's relatively easy for us, although you can see things that you've never seen before, and therefore you have to lay down a new memory of it. Memories only last if they get refreshed. So if you don't see a cat for a really long time, or you don't think of Elizabeth Taylor for a really long time, or anything else, that circuit, that pathway, that cascade of firing, and it is electrical, electrochemical. There are chemicals that, when stimulated, emit energy or electricity, and that's what triggers the next neuron and the next and the next and the next and so on. Okay, how you are we are memory based. How we derive what we call thinking out of that, I'm not sure. And then feelings, they're memory based as well somehow, but I'm not sure how. Uh, Thoughts. I can get empty-headed. There's no words going on in my head. Devoid of thought. Devoid. Just existing, which I like sometimes. Just existing. Not having to do anything or think about anything or be anything. Sometimes when I'm totally devoid, something will pop into my head, and I have no idea where it's coming from or why. Maybe it's just a brain fart. You ever hear the term brain fart? That's an interesting concept, but true. And sleep. I had a professor who was highly interested in sleep, and I can understand why, and you should too, like dreams. Yes, even when you're sleeping, you can hear things, you're feeling things, but how that gets translated into dreams. I read once that it's when your brain is reorganizing and refreshing or whatever, and maybe making new pathways between neurons, synapses. I don't know. But isn't it interesting? Dreams, they can seem so vivid and real, and yet they're all inside your head. You're not seeing them through your eyes, but you can. I usually see things in dreams. I'm visually there because vision is such a strong input into our brains, mind. Mind. What the hell is mind? If thoughts are one thing, mind is another, and feelings are another. I Anyway, it's exploration, exploration of your own mind. I once upon a time did some psychoactive chemicals to explore. And there's a lot of stuff that you can roam around in there. The other way people model sometimes their mind, it's got rooms, and they keep things in various rooms. And some rooms they don't go into at all anymore because they don't like what's in that room. I never compartmentalized my mind, if you will, into rooms. It's just some sort of big cloudy thing, cloudy mass. I can focus on a particular idea, and usually I am hands and eyes, and that's the easiest thing to do. You know, when you're carving a piece of wood, or you're cooking a steak, or that's easy. You focus on that, and that's all your mind really has to do. But even then, sleep. A professor had what was called it was a totally void of stimulation chamber. You go in there and it was a perfect temperature. You know, you couldn't. It wasn't hot, wasn't cold. It had no sound. You couldn't hear anything. It was soundproof. It was dark. So you go in there and you're totally isolated from. It was a stimulation isolation chamber. That's what it was. Okay. So you go in there and after a while, the your mind doesn't like being doing nothing. So if you stayed in there long enough time, your mind started inventing things, which was interesting. Sort of, it's like you couldn't keep it quiet. Keeping your mind quiet. If you ever try that, and there's religions that do that, I think they focus on that. Or holding a candle flame, visually hold a candle flame in your mind, and that's all you do. See how long you can hold it. Now, I have trouble with that, but interesting enough, I can take and visualize like the planet, our Earth, orbiting the sun, a ball in the middle and a ball going around it. I can visualize that, and I can keep it spinning visually for a very long time, and nothing else intrudes. Now, that's my form of candle in the mind. But the whole thing of mind, is like, well, how do you control? Can you control your own mind? Some people can't. They have runaway thoughts. The whole mind thing is biochemical. It is interesting to me that the brain must operate on a very wide spectrum of chemical uh, levels. Like quarts, gallons. Just look at it that way. However you want to measure it. Okay, because if there was a fairly narrow band of like serotonin or these other chemicals, our brain wouldn't necessarily operate like other humans, and sometimes they don't, and that's because of a chemical imbalance or other. But anyway, the human brain must be rigged to have a fairly wide tolerance for ups and downs of various neurotransmitters. Otherwise, we wouldn't be more like than we are. We would be more different than we are alike. I'm not sure language would even be possible. And language is another interesting explanation because that's also memory based, like numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a base memory that we all get. We get programmed. Okay? I'm really rambling on about this one. I'm sorry, but it, I'd rather do this than what I got to do. So, anyway, that's more ramblings about thoughts and your mind. And probably the most interesting thing there is to figure out how it works. Uh, Computers are interesting and they do wonderful things, but they're not nothing compared to what you got between your ears. Uh, uh, the mind is
Sorry,
awesome.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, I tried turning you off before. I'm gonna turn my computer off so it doesn't hear what I say. Anyway, that's it for episode 10, part 2. I'll probably have to revisit this because there's a whole lot more. Anyway, the part 2. This is 12th of December 2022.